All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to AI and IP management for a fragmented ecosystem. How many of you are content owners or working for big legacy content owners? Anybody here? How many of you are have nothing to do with media and entertainment, but just wandered off the Vegas Strip? Raise your hand. No, none of you. All right. All right. Well, we're actually going to have a great discussion about you own great content or you have legacy content that you want to reactivate. How do you handle that in this world of all sorts of different streaming mechanisms and all sorts of AI getting in there and people being able to have access to your content without your permission? So we have a panel of experts who are all solving for this and managing. So let's do just a lightning round of introductions. So we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. Richard Duke from Lunex, and sitting on the microphone cable, so can't pull it away very easily. And Lunex is an AI platform used in the production pipeline, and we'll talk a lot more about that. So love fully ingrained in AI and workflows and generative AI and governance of
That's
AI.
right. And Richard has founded a number of AI companies. So that's what's so exciting about this is everyone is swimming in this sea right now. And Rick?
Hi, everybody. Rick Gibson. I am the Vice President of Media and Entertainment and the General Manager of our Vyvx Broadcast Solutions at Lumen.
Excellent. Fahad?
At Rocket Fuel, we make games and we activate brands and IP within the gaming space, especially Fortnite, Roblox, and PUBG. So our business model is stealing candy from children, and that's essentially what we do.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jolie Roberts. I'm the Vice President of Domestic Licensing at King Features, which is the part of Hearst that houses a lot of Hearst's legacy IP and character brands.
Fantastic. And I also just want to mention that Lumen and Vyvx are the ones sponsoring today's session. And part of that is because so much of what's happening in this world, they are delivering, getting that content out. And so it's important to talk about all these bumps along the road, right? That as we do that. So let's start with you, Jolie. You're sitting at a company that has amazing legacy content and new content as well. How do you navigate? How do you get it out there? How do you make deals? What's going on?
Yeah, so a lot of people are familiar with Hearst for the magazine division. We have Cosmopolitan magazine, we have Men's Health magazine, Good Housekeeping. We have a large news division. We also co-own ESPN with Disney. And what a lot of people don't necessarily always know about is the division that houses a lot of classic character brands. Some of these brands are brands like Popeye the Sailor Man and Flash Gordon and the Phantom. And many of these IPs are 100 years old or almost 100 years old. And one of the challenges that we face is how do we reinvigorate these brands and keep them having fresh content and being innovative and really introducing them to the next generation. And two of the big categories or vehicles rather that we feel has really been able to bring us to the next generation and keep these brands living for another 100 years is sports and gaming. And so actually that's how Fahad and I know each other and have worked together. So we can talk a little bit about that. But yeah, it's been interesting navigating, especially when we look at 100 years of creative assets. You know, how do we continue to keep these fresh and utilize them to bring in new fan bases?
And just because AI is in our panel title, because you had a very specific way that you're leveraging AI, which is not in the way that most people would think. But can you just explain how you're looking at it?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI is, of course, part of our everyday. We use it constantly to figure out how we want to concept and storytell. But I will say that Hearst has, its own proprietary AI tools. We're continuing to explore third-party tools and how they may be useful. But I will say that we're definitely in the exploration phase on that. Where we do use AI tools and where it's really helpful for us is in generating concepts. So creating the stories and new stories, right, for a lot of these classic character IPs.
That's great. And let's bump over to Fahad now. And again, we'll back into how you're working with Jolie, but tell us what you're doing with Rocket Fuel and new IP.
So we license third-party IPs and we activate it into the gaming space. People have moved away from traditional broadcasting. They don't want to just consume IP. They want to participate and they want to be a part of it. So we're building interactive worlds around the IP where the IP feels natural and it doesn't feel forced. Because if it feels like an ad, people would skip. If it feels like a game, people would stay there and participate. So
And you're coming up because you're doing this, and a lot of this is in Roblox, correct? You're doing this. How many of you have kids, or maybe yourself, and don't be shy, are in Roblox? Come on, I know you're playing in Roblox. It's all right. All right, because I remember hours and hours of my kid playing in Roblox. So you're also finding ways to monetize this IP, right? Can you share with us how you're doing that?
yes, you can make lots of money on Roblox.
Let's do it.
Some of the top experiences on Roblox are making around $100 million annually. So whenever we're activating an IP in the gaming space, it's all about monetization. The IP holder wants to know how much bucks they're going to make. So essentially that, yes.
But is there is there any issues with putting legacy IP on Roblox and then having somebody else do something with it because it's in that digital area where people are doing user gen and playing around?
There is a common challenge point, and it's related to ownership. For example, we have created a Flash Gordon skin in Roblox. Do we really own that skin, or does it belong to Roblox? Can we make a digital avatar out of that skin? No, we cannot. So there are like common challenges. Like I remember we were doing an activation in Riyadh where we had to do a physical Roblox avatar. And Roblox was like, no, you cannot do this. It's pretty challenging to get your way along different red tape that's around activating brands within the gaming space.
And I think one of the interesting things about you is also you're having to create new licensing models, correct? Because are any of you dealing with licensing models at all in your work? Who are you people? Come on. I'm just kidding. But that's one of your best things right now, right? Is you're focused on creating new models because that's what this space is going to take.
Yes. I mean, people, like I said before, people want to participate. They want to be part of the experience. And earlier, in the early days, licensing worked pretty differently. You paid for rights and you distributed content. And gaming works quite differently from that. We create value, and that value grows over time because children are spending over 2 hours in Roblox, and so we try to increase session length as much as we can. We try to increase retention as much as we can. So yes, growing value over time is what we are trying to achieve with activating brands and IP in the gaming space.
That's great. All right, we're going to come back to you and Jolie to talk about some of the cool stuff you guys are doing together. Richard, I want to go after you because one of the things that you're doing is really helping folks get some governance in there so that they don't have to be afraid that what they're building off of is illegal or AI or they don't own the rights. So tell us how you're moving through this.
Yeah, so it's several different things. So at Lunex, we're helping build production pipelines and giving you guidance and using AI to help inform when you might insert AI into the workflow and what those advantages would be, but also helping you using AI to help you drive your production pipeline. And then with our partner Animatics is one that really, really takes governance to a different level. So think of it as generative AI in the language of filmmaking. And so it sits as a platform on top of all of the different models. And a company may choose to only use certain models and not other models based on their security requirements, etc. But any piece of content that is generated through that platform, you can know exactly what models were used, what was used to train them, what licensing was in place, So as an example, you can bring a script to animatics, and you can choose characters, and you can choose people that are that character, and that person's likeness and image is licensed. And so that person whose image you're using will get paid for you using their likeness, right? And again, that's auditable. Same thing with voice, right? So in some cases you're using a person's image, but you're using a different voice, or you're using different music, right? So the whole idea is being able to have an audit trail of everything that was used, the models that were used, so that an entity that is publishing that content can know this was clean, and and all of the licensing checkboxes were used.
That's great.
So yeah, the governance is really, really important,
Mm.
and not just the Wild West that it's been for the last few years.
I love that, because a couple years ago here, even at NAB and a lot of other tech shows, it was AI, but it was the Wild West, and there was no controls over it. So, okay, so now we go over to Rick, and we take that piece of content that's been maybe cleaned up by Richard and we get to you. How do you handle making sure the IP is solid and safe? And
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways to look at this. You have the processing that's required, with AI, which takes a massive amount of capacity. So what we have to do is look at, or how do we scale the network specifically for AI to ensure that you get the most efficient processing and that you have the best utilization, of the intelligence that you're using. Secondarily is, or probably more primarily, is the security. So we have to actually ensure that we've got safeguards across the entire network, so that you don't have bad actors that get into the network that can get access to content. So that's one of our primary areas to actually focus on, is ensuring both that that high capacity processing power, but at the same time that we have the secure, reliable network that that allows you to, once you've gone through the governance, that now it's not interrupted until you've delivered your content.
and this is for things that are canned as well as live, correct? Because
Exactly.
it's a new world of live too.
Yeah, I mean, think about that, from a live perspective. You have live content that's moving across the network. The last thing you want is, a live event that, someone could access and change, the actual image. And that makes, security even more important. I mean, you don't want to give, you don't want to give the ability for that access, for your live image.
Yeah, so that it actually makes me feel better, doesn't it, to know that there's actually like solutions out here that are handling this madness, right? So Jolie and Fahad, I want to go back to you, because you were telling me about an example of like something that happened with you guys with a couple of pieces of content. Can you share the story with us?
Yeah, so Rocket Fuel, which is Fahad's company, is right now building Roblox worlds for some of our IPs like Flash Gordon and Popeye. And one of and actually just hearing kind of more about your solutions, maybe there's something we should explore there, because that could help us a lot, especially related to this example.
All right, remember that the moderator gets 10% of any business on it.
You got it.
We're going to work together, aren't we, Jolie? Yes.
We can be creative deal structure wise. Yeah. So we had an interesting situation, because when we were starting to put together what the look and feel of the Flash Gordon Roblox world would look like, we were exploring how to use AI to generate some of those concepts, right? At least internally at Hearst, and just to be creative and inspire some of the story. And there was an example where Fahad's team submitted, the artwork for some of these new worlds, and someone on our team, it goes through a very stringent approvals process, all of the artwork and creative that before it gets published. And something that we noticed was that part of the world, there were references in the world that were reminiscent of Star Wars. And that for an IP holder is very scary, not just from a legal standpoint, but because of our fans. You know, these fans, the Flash Gordon fans, are so loyal and know the world inside and out, probably more than any of us could ever. They dedicate their lives to it. And so there is a risk of fans going up in arms if they see references to other IPs. Now, in our experience, it actually wasn't because it was AI generated. It happened to be a coincidence, but it definitely was a learning experience that we have to be really careful when we use AI tools, even for concepting, because AI uses contextual examples and brings those in. So if we're having parts of other IPs go into our worlds, that's a big risk.
And then we were told by their team, please don't use AI to generate assets for Flash Gordon or any of the outside.
And did you comply?
Yes, they did. And it's beautiful now.
Because that's hard too, especially if you're getting assets from creative agencies and other companies that have become AI dependent on their tool sets. How do you mitigate that? I mean, you just have to find agencies and creatives that aren't using those tools?
Yeah, I mean, it's we love AI is so much a part of everyone's everyday, but human beings are still very important, and the human evaluation process in IP management, especially when it relates to building new content like video games, choosing the right partners is very important. So Rocket Fuel was an important partner for us in that, and they take it very seriously, the way that and responsibility around using AI tools.
So do we think then that we know that sports and live are very important, and obviously we've been spending the last 2 days talking about live, but is gaming going to become, I mean, I know there are big gaming matches, but do we see gaming matches getting as big as large football, games that happen on certain nights of the week?
I mean, yes. Like, for example, talking about FIFA, it's the most emotionally driven IP in the world, and engagement only peaks during matches. How do you sustain that level of engagement when matches are not being played? And partly why FIFA is really huge in the gaming space as well. A lot of kids play with their friends. FIFA has recently done a Roblox game as well. So the level of engagement when a kid is playing the game really peaks during that particular experience. The dopamine raises whenever they're playing that game. And talking about AI, referring to what Jolie said, I'm really bullish on AI, and not just generative AI for generating graphics, but AI as a layer of decisive intelligence, like what keeps users engaged, what makes them come back, and how we can scale our games organically using AI.
And that layer too, Rick, we should talk a little bit about that, is all the data that is packaged with what you're sending out and protecting. So is the data part of that security story too?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, every portion, from I would say from the application layer all the way down to the transport layer, has to be secured, and we put so many different. I would say, or should we say, different functionality within the actual network to ensure, total security across the network. Even if you get someone that say through phishing or somehow is able to maybe break one password, there's multiple layers that they can't get through to, well, knock on wood, that you hope that they can never get through. So
I wish you would talk to all the banks and everybody else that are having problems. But Richard, going over to you. So who are your clients right now? Because it seems like everyone could use what you're doing. So
Yeah.
who's come to you first?
Yeah, so we kind of get it from both ends. So the very, very large enterprise studios, right, and making sure that there is governance on the things that they do, and really they want to explore. Right, there's this opening to explore what can be created, how it can be created, is it secure, how they can license, right? How they can license their characters, et cetera, but also the young filmmakers, right? Even down to education. So one of the things that we're doing with Lunex is getting it into the hands of student filmmakers, right? Who are learning the industry, and they're learning, what can I do with AI? What can't I do with AI? Using AI to help them, prompt them and guide them on even the processes, right? And also with companies that have a really great idea, and they're trying to build, they're trying to raise money.
Yeah.
They have a great concept. This is the story I want to tell. So they start to build a storyboard, and then they start to build an animatic, right? And then they can take it and say, this is the story that I want to create. And people can look at that and now say, oh, I get it. I love the story.
It's
Here's
safe.
some money. Yeah.
Right. It's safe. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That's great. And Jolie, for you, are you also concerned culturally with like where your legacy IP goes out to the rest of the world? Because different cultures take different things in different ways.
Definitely. I mean, a really good example is olive oil. So olive oil is known as Popeye's leading lady, and she has a really interesting story. But
everybody know who olive oil is? Is there anyone here who's under, I don't know, 40 or something? I don't know what it's. All right.
Well, hopefully that will change once our Roblox World video games come out. But olive oil is portrayed in different ways. So what a lot of people don't know is actually her brand is 10 years older than Popeye. She's 107 years old right now.
She looks fantastic.
Yes. And you know what? She walked the Milan runway in Fashion Week with Moschino. And so I hope that at 107, I'm also doing that. But she does have a lot of different sides to her brand that is portrayed differently in different places. And one of the interesting things is actually so Popeye is 97 and she's 107. So for 10 years before Popeye existed, Olive Oil had her own life. She was a singer and dancer and comedian. She had a child without being married, and she was a very progressive woman that really embraced her uniqueness and was unapologetic. And then, 100 years ago kind of was not great. It wasn't okay for women to live a life like that. So they had her meet Popeye, and she got absorbed into the Popeye story and started to be portrayed as this damsel in distress. So one thing that we've really done, especially kind of actually using AI tools to reimagine what Olive would be like now, is extract her origin story and create a new brand for her, which is a women-empowered brand. And it's really celebrating strong women who are exactly who they are. And we've seen a lot of success with that. But that is an example of how Olive and her story and her IP can be portrayed differently in different places. Like in Brazil or some Latin American countries, her name is Olivia, right? And she sometimes has a different persona based on the content that she's in. So it's been interesting.
And if she could get us all passports to Brazil or something,
we can work on that.
Discuss it. And how about you, Fahad? Is global activity a concern as well? I mean, Roblox is obviously a global platform.
Yes, we are also working with a French IP. We're doing a game for Asterix and Obelix, and earlier there were talks that they only want to localize the game and launch it in France only, and then we had to convince them that the monetization layer doesn't work like that. So the top spending audience in Roblox are from the United States. So obviously we have to launch it in the US and Europe, of course. Another interesting story I remember is we were doing a tower defense game for Asterix and Obelix, and we kind of had to convince the IP owner that, so in tower defense game, the towers are the characters. So we had to change the textures of their original 3D models. And because I think whenever you're activating within the gaming space, adaptability is very important. If you don't adapt, it feels very outdated. And if you change it too much, the IP would lose its core identity. So we changed the textures minimally that just to support the level upgrades. And it was really hard job when you're talking to IP owners to change the 3D models and their clothings and textures. So yes, lots of challenges.
Yeah. And Rick, for you, your services and the solutions are global?
They are. So we have, our vast network within the U.S. We also have our owned network, fiber infrastructure in APAC, and then we work with partners in EMEA and LATAM to where we ensure both the network capacity along with security on each of those parts. So yeah, and we really look at that both. It's from a um, from anywhere from a layer 2, layer 3, and then of course, with on the Vyvx side of the house, we look at it from a video layer as well. So no, it's definitely global in nature, and one that we look to expand, more and more each year.
Oh, that's exciting. And for you also, there's different AI rules in different countries. So is that something in your consideration set?
Absolutely, absolutely. Different countries allow some models and not others, and some customers allow some models and not others. And so, so one of the things that we've done is allow allow a customer to choose what models they're using and where they're using them, right? So there's also in certain countries data governance. And so just because a model is available in one country doesn't make it available in all countries. And so the data governance also restricts. In certain countries, certain models just don't run, right?
In other countries, right?
In other countries they do. So and again, we want to make sure that we can audit and have the governance that exactly what models were used. And the models, we have just a vast number of models, and there's more coming every day. So, and we want to enable the best models in the best locations.
Yeah.
And customers can choose and select. I can use these models. I can't use these models.
So you don't sleep, is what you're saying. This stuff is insane.
Somebody is sleeping.
Do you guys have any questions before we do a last lightning round? Anybody have any questions for the fabulous panel? This is the only time in your lives you're going to ask these couple of questions. No? All right. Let's start back with you, Jolie. Just what advice would you give folks who have IP right now? And I'd love to hear that from all of you. Just what's some advice based on these topics? Anything.
Yeah. I would say that especially for legacy IP, there's such amazing history that's connected to a lot of these brands. I mean, Popeye goes back almost 100 years, and there's he's a pillar of American history in many ways. And so I think there's a tough balance sometimes of preserving that history and that novelty, and then also reinventing these IPs to be more relatable to younger generations. So I would say that it's important for us to maintain just the novelty of these brands and be both selective with who we choose to work with, who are passionate about our brands, who are going to do the right thing by our brands, but also be really open. I think that especially with exploring different AI tools and what is possible to create new stories with these IPs, we wouldn't be able to do that if we weren't totally open-minded and really leave no stone unturned to explore. So
that's great. Fahad?
My advice would be to IP owners that you do not protect your IP by controlling it. You protect it by allowing it to evolve. And I would suggest them, since the times are changing, interactive space is growing. So do more games and allow me to steal candy from children.
Excellent. Rick?
I would say, look at your solution, or really what you're trying to accomplish, and look at, there's different areas where you can actually be flexible. Whether or not because you can actually you could procure capacity and still save a lot of money. So if you look at, like network as a service, where you can actually, you can sign up for a 100 gig port, but you don't have to pay for 100 gig worth of capacity. So whenever you're moving large amounts of data, you're only paying for what you move. You don't have a bunch of empty capacity that's there throughout the,
So
through
you're
the
making
times.
you're making us able to manage what our situation is.
And it kind of helps, because if you really look at your overall solution, it is from a diversity standpoint, from a protected standpoint, and really know what your environment needs, or the solution you're looking for. It will actually help you be more efficient.
That's great. And Richard, bring us home. No pressure. Take it
Right.
home, baby.
So I would say the biggest thing is embrace,
Okay.
AI in this world, and especially with legacy IP, right? It's an opportunity to bring a whole new audience to some of the most historical IP, right? And you can create historical reenactments out of really, really old content or really old historical figures, and you can breathe new life into stories that are old, and and also build new things that are new and innovative,
And be legal and protective and ethical.
legal and protective and ethical.
That's
Yes.
great. Let's have a hand for our panels, and make sure you head over to Lumen to check out all the things that Rick was talking about, and also dig into Hearst and Fahad and also Richard, and you can talk to these guys right after the panel. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.